Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Thoughts with Sam at Night. Okay, last video for the evening, I promise. Maybe. Anyway, here's the point, you guys. Have y'all seen what they're doing to food? Now, I'm not just talking about putting vaccines in food like this.
In recent years, edible vaccine emerged as a new concept developed by biotechnologists. Edible vaccines are a novel and innovative approach to vaccine delivery that have the potential to revolutionize the way we protect against diseases. Unlike traditional vaccines, which are typically delivered through injections, edible vaccines are delivered orally, in the form of food crops or other edible products. To date, many plant species have been used for vaccine production. The choice of the plant species is important. An edible, palatable plant is necessary if the vaccine is planned for raw consumption. In case of vaccine for animal use, the plant should preferentially be selected among those consumed as normal component of the animal's diet. Subunit vaccines. Edible vaccines are subunit vaccines where the selected genes are introduced into the plants and the transgenic plant is then induced to manufacture the encoded protein. Foods under such application include potato, banana, lettuce, corn, soybean, rice, and legumes.
That's bad enough, right? These vegetables, you better learn how to grow them yourself. All right? Seriously. I'm being really serious. When you have states like Tennessee trying to get ahead with legislation to stop these products from ending up on the shelf without proper warning. See, there are loopholes. You gotta love them. The people who create the laws also are very aware of the loopholes. And then it is up to you and me to find the loopholes and plug them, okay? So what is happening here is there are currently no laws stopping them from introducing vaccine-laden food into your grocery stores. So you've got states like Tennessee trying to do this.
Can you give me an example of a food that's a vaccine?
You recognize?
Yes, sir. University of California, Riverside has already perfected the ability to put human vaccines into our lettuce right now. Also tomatoes has the ability to do that also for UC Berkeley. And then Big Tobacco, R.J. Reynolds and stuff has perfected the ability to put a human vaccine into tobacco products.
Chairman Clements?
And is that even legal to do in the state of Tennessee, to sell those with a vaccine in them?
You recognize?
Well, I'm not arguing that point. What I'm saying is there is no law deeming those that when you go into a grocery store, you should know as a consumer, this head of lettuce is a head of lettuce. The head of lettuce right next to it could contain a vaccine in it. All we're saying is if it does have the vaccine in it, make sure it's listed as a pharmaceutical so people can get the proper dosage.
And my question is right now, can you walk into a grocery store and there be a head of lettuce for sale that has a vaccine in it? I don't think that's allowed under state law presently. And if it is, and you have to list it as a pharmaceutical, are we going to then have Walgreens pharmacists with a refrigerated section? I mean, how's this going to play out?
You recognize?
Thank you. This is more of a consumer protection bill right here, is to make sure that if you're going in to buy tomatoes and there's a polio vaccine in there, that you are aware of what you're buying has a polio vaccine. The problem you have is if it's not treated as a pharmaceutical, being the size and difference between you and me, how many tomatoes do I have to eat to get the proper dosage versus how many tomatoes that you have to eat? And if you eat too many, do you get a overdose? If you eat too less, like we had in the cattle industry with Aromycin, we weren't dosing our cattle properly and the horn flies were developing an immunity to it. If we don't have the proper dosage of a vaccine, it could lead to the efficacy of that drug not work anymore.
You recognize?
Well, I'd like to think I'm more immune to horn flies than you are, but I say that jokingly.
No,
but my question is just, is there a need for this? I understand there's a concern, and yeah, people should know if there's a vaccine in food. But if we can't even sell food with vaccines in it in the state of Tennessee right now, then is this legislation necessary is my question.
Well, if you have a child that is allergic to a certain vaccine and it's not disclosed when you go to buy that vegetable or whatever it is, and your child dies from that, I would think that having something in place that's going to make sure that that is treated as a pharmaceutical so that the consumers know exactly what they're buying.
All those in favor of House Bill 1894 say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Ayes have it. Bill goes on to counter and rules. If you wish to be recorded as a no, please notify the clerk.
Then, you guys, a year ago, legitimately 12 months ago, Idaho, who would have thought the potato capital of the United States would have been first in saying, not on our watch. And what happened when they tried to introduce that bill? She was made fun of. Watch this.
It's like a yearly occurrence. You can count on someone at the State House to offer up something that is, let's just say, of questionable origin. Republican Senator Tammy Nichols, co-chair of the Freedom Caucus, is worried about vaccines being put into people's food without them knowing about it. She introduced a bill yesterday that would prevent such things, and it would change the Idaho Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act to prevent manufacturing and the sale of foods with those materials in them unless, of course, there's proper labeling for consumers.
Basically, for the consumer, what we're looking at is just providing notification of the presence of such vaccine or vaccine materials that are within the product. So it's just giving another disclosure for the public to be able to know what is in that product. Like I said, this is a newer type of precedence that's being set for not only our nation, but worldwide. And so I do know of mRNA is one that they are looking at trying to add into right now lettuce for public consumption.
Okay, hold on to that. I know what you're thinking, a vaccine and food. Okay, this bill was likely spawned by a now debunked and fake tweet supposedly put out by Bill Gates, the Microsoft guy, about he supports vaccines in the food supply to get those who are vaccine averse, allegedly. Well, it's not true, and that tweet wasn't even real, created by a conspiracy theory website. However, what is true, and you heard Senator Nichols now talking about it. According to UC Riverside, researchers at the Southern California school were given a $500,000 grant in 2021 to see if mRNA, the same stuff they used to make the COVID vaccine, can be put into plants like lettuce and spinach. Long-term goal is for people to kind of grow that kind of stuff in their own backyard, if that's even possible. It will also make it easier for those without access to such medical care around the world. They can't get access to a needle. How can you get a vaccine, right? Would make it easier. It's unclear if Nichols was referring to this study in particular, but you heard her mention it. But UC Riverside told us in an email their study is merely an experiment, and currently no genetically engineered food containing vaccines actually exists. But we're still going to talk about it at the State House. A full committee hearing on the bill is coming soon. I mean, what else is there to talk about?
I'm sorry. 13 months ago, that video said January of 2023. And this mainstream media outlet allowed their very liberal, left-wing, and know-it-all to get up there and make fun of this woman who I hear is now a senator. Thank you, God, for putting good people in good places. But this is what I'm talking about. This is why you cannot watch somebody tell you that something isn't. I mean, he made her sound like she was insane. Fast forward at 13 months, and it's a real thing happening across our country. So now that I fried your brain with technical sciencey stuff on a Friday night, let's go a little further. Now we have to worry about the fact that the food being provided to us is either being grown in third world countries where people are being used and abused, not paid for their work, underpaid for their work. So you've got the human element of, while I'm eating this avocado, somebody was only paid 17 cents to pick this sucker, and it isn't easy to do it. You've got that aspect to the food industry now. Now you've got to worry about, they're telling you, don't worry, America, we would never put this food on your shelves. This is for third world countries. Well, what about all the third world people breaking in our country? Are you just going to like introduce it to catch it up? It's why I try to teach you guys how to grow your own food organically. All right. If you've never looked at my videos for that, it's never too late to get started. I only started 2 years ago. Go to my no-till playlist. Okay. There are playlists on my homepage. I hope you guys stop just watching the things I'm putting out about the news, but that you begin to understand what animal husbandry is, how to make your own compost, how to make your own apple cider. I'm going to teach you those things. In fact, I've already put the videos out there. It's up to you to decide that that is something that you want to take control over. Okay? Now you have to worry about people like Amos Miller. Now, I've done videos on him in the past. And the reason I bring it up now is most people are like, okay, like, why do we care about some Amish guy in Pennsylvania? Because if they can do it to him, they can do it to you. It's the same thing that's going on with Trump. See, the USDA finds a weak spot, a sweet spot, somebody who's found their own loophole in their draconian laws. Amos Miller found the loophole to selling organic, humanely raised food. Okay, so one of the things that he doesn't do is he does not how do I say this to you guys? Basically, when you buy meat from the grocery store, they radiate it. You heard me right. No, I'm not lying. I do this for a living. They put radiation on it basically to kill the bacteria. Because so many carcasses go through their killing machines every day, they have a big problem with all kinds of horrifying bacteria. Well, see, Amos Miller, like my farmstead here in Louisiana, we don't do that stuff to your food. We're not going to spray it down and disinfect it with chemicals before we put it in plastic and hand it to you. Well, the USDA didn't like that. Pennsylvania did not like that. And now they're doing this to him.
We're conducting a search warrant inside this building right now.
I got access to that search warrant.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Apparently, they're not even allowing Amos Miller, the owner of this establishment, into the building to see what they're doing.
Salsa's detained, granola detained, can't sell maple syrup, product under detention.
They've been in here for multiple hours at this point. We can only film through the glass. Again, searching Amos Miller's property.
Amos Miller, an Amish farmer in Bird in Hand, Pennsylvania, has been raided and sued by the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. In this video, I am going to provide you with the details surrounding the January 2024 raid. A raid that comes just 1 year after the conclusion of the federal government's case against Miller Organic Farms. I covered the federal case in 2 separate videos, which I will link in the description below. But I want to encourage you to share this video. Tucker Carlson was the only mainstream voice for Amos Miller during the federal government's lawsuit against Miller in 2022. The state government's lawsuit against Miller has received little or no exposure in the mainstream media to date, despite the fact that the verdict on this case, whether negative or positive, will have wide-sweeping implications for thousands of small farmers and millions of consumers across the USA. As it stands in the USA, every meat and dairy product that is sold at a retail level must be inspected either by a USDA or state agent, or as in the case of dairy, must be processed in an establishment with license and or permit from the state or federal government. Private membership associations like Miller's are one of the last legal avenues that farmers have to privately sell their farm goods to consumers without government mediation. The key word being private, because those who have private membership associations or herd shares are not selling commercially or to the public. Even more so, they are the final avenue through which you, the consumer, can opt out of a dangerously centralized agricultural system. If the state or federal government can delegitimize what Amos Miller is doing, it sets a legal precedent and signals the beginning of the end for what remains of private food in the USA. If you are local to Pennsylvania, please consider being at the Lancaster County Courthouse in Pennsylvania on February 29th. A court rally is going to be held at 11:30 a.m., directly preceding Amos's hearing at 1 p.m. If you are like me and you are not local, please consider giving to Amos's Give, Send, Go campaign, which I will put as the pinned comment on this video. Robert Barnes is the lawyer representing Miller in this case and estimates that legal fees will reach $250,000.
So I'm going to leave you on this note. It is your responsibility to be educated about the food that you eat. Where does it come from? How is it grown? Is it local? Is it organic? It's your responsibility. And I'm going to tell you guys the God's honest truth. It is cheaper for you to drive to a little farmstead or a little homestead or a little market garden like mine and spend $100 on locally grown, fresh out the garden, like I'm going to pick it while you're standing there, boo. Organic food. It's cheaper for you to do that than for you to go to Whole Foods, which is another joke. It's another co-op. They co-opted our regenerative, organic movement. And basically, they turned it into a capitalist nightmare. That is what Whole Foods is. It's always shocking to me to see people like, oh, I eat organic. I go to Whole Foods. You're not even supporting local farmers. You don't know where that food came from. You don't even know if it's actually organic. They tell you it is, but is it? So all I'm saying is, you have a doctor, you have a hairdresser, you have a vet, you have a mechanic. You better get a farmer. Because coming to a store near you very soon will be radiated meat grown from a cancer cell and vaccinated lettuce. You're welcome, because I'm warning you before it happens. And you think autism and learning disability and behavior problems are now bad in America? Wait until you see what that crap does to your kids. God bless you. Have a blessed night.
It involves introduction of selected, desired genes into plants and then inducing these altered plants to manufacture the encoded proteins.